So when Woody heard that he was the drunken maniac, nightmarish memories of what had happened that night hit him like a wave. He began to tremble uncontrollably. Woody was scared out of his wits. He trembled in fear. The drunken maniac's appearance had unleashed his deepest, darkest fear. 10 years ago, he was just a small fry in the martial arts union. He was full of fighting spirit the night he received the mission to capture the criminals. Beyond excited, he thought that would be his one chance to prove himself. He was going to make a name for himself. But it wasn't until they reached the battlefield that he realized how cruel reality was. He saw with his own eyes how his comrades were shredded into pieces. He saw how his leader was beheaded. And he saw how all the experts he had looked up to were murdered. They had all been utterly defenseless against their opponents and were killed upon contact. He was thoroughly traumatized by the bloody and gory scenes that had unfolded before his eyes. To this very day, those scenes still haunt his every nightmare. He would shake involuntarily every time he was reminded of what happened. The fact was, he had only survived that night due to pure luck. At the most critical moment, he got the brilliant idea to feign death. So he dropped to the ground and played dead. And that was how he had made it out alive. Though he was promoted after the battle, he was scared out of his wits. He lost all the ambition he had when he started. He had thought that he'd finally gotten over those nightmares and that they would never appear anymore. But now, the murder machine from his memories appeared before him again. All the terrifying memories from before seemed to awaken within him, stirring up all his hidden fears. What? The drunken maniac. This grubby old man is the drunken maniac. How's that possible? Isn't he dead? My goodness. If news gets out that the drunken maniac is still alive and in Balerno, the entire Dragonmarsh will descend into chaos. Who is the drunken maniac? Is he very powerful? Well, but of course, the drunken maniac's an ultimate grandmaster. He's one of the top 10 greatest martial artists in the entire martial world. He's someone right at the pinnacle. Do you think he's powerful? Damn. He's that great. Wouldn't he basically be invincible if he's one of the top 10 greatest martial artists? At that moment, Woody was not the only one scared. After learning about who the drunken maniac was, all the experts from the various guilds looked at him in awe and admiration. Even the haughtiest and proudest among them had no choice but to show respect to such a formidable person. To them, an ultimate grandmaster of such level was no longer a mere mortal. Instead, he was more like a god who held their lives in his hands. "Hey, you!" The drunken maniac called out to Woody. That scared him so much that his legs gave way, and he fell to his knees. He shivered as he begged, "Lord Drunken Maniac, I was blind. I didn't know who you were. Please don't take it to heart, and I hope you find it in you to forgive my unintentional offense." Still on his knees, he hung his head low. He looked flustered and frightened to the core. "Huh!" The drunken maniac raised a brow as he looked at Woody with a peculiar expression. All he did was call out to him. Why was he so scared? Were people from the martial arts union such scaredy-cats these days? "All right, I'm in a good mood today, so I'll let you go just this once." The drunken maniac waved his hand as he continued calmly, "Go back and convey my message to Caesar Fent. Tell him to be careful and watch his back. Now, take your men and get lost." "Yes, sir. We'll be off right away." Woody nodded in gratitude as he sped off with his men without looking back. Wise men submit to circumstances. A wounded ego and bruised pride was nothing if it meant he could get away with his life. Besides, few could live with their ego and pride intact in the presence of the drunken maniac. "Do any of you have anything to say about me defending this young man here?" After getting rid of Woody and his men, the drunken maniac turned his gaze to those from the guilds. That sent a wave of panic among them. None of them had expected Dustin to be backed by such a powerful person. It was no wonder he was so powerful at such a young age. So it turned out he had an ultimate grandmaster teaching him in private. "Why have you all gone mute now? Weren't you all waving your weapons about, ready to challenge me?" The drunken maniac picked at his nose again. He pulled out a piece of booger and toyed with it between his fingers. His absent-minded actions carried a certain sense of authority. After all, That piece of booger held enough power to give a Grandmaster a lethal blow. Lord Drunken Maniac, it was all a misunderstanding. We do not mean to offend you. The Guildmaster of the Deathly Hurricane was quick to react. He quickly showed his respect. His right. We were only taking orders from the Martial Arts Union. We had no choice. Please forgive us, Lord Drunken Maniac. The leader of the Starry Archers immediately followed suit and apologized. Hey, why are you all just standing there? Put your weapons down. I'll make you pay if you hurt Reese in any way. The leader of the Nephrite Sun took things to another level. He berated all the martial artists around him, pretending to protect Dustin. The rest of them finally snapped back to the present as they put their weapons away. All the tension in the air instantly dissipated. Even the leader of the Martial Arts Union had run away. Who else dared to act up with the Drunken Maniac still there? Suddenly, Emery stood up. He said, Lord Drunken Maniac, what happened today was a mistake. As the assistant leader of Balerno Martial Arts Alliance, I cannot escape the blame. To express my apology, I would like to nominate Grandmaster Reese as the new leader of the Alliance. A clamor broke out at that. What? Dustin as the next leader? Is he for real? The martial world has always been ruled by whoever is most powerful. I see no problem in Dustin becoming the next leader as he was the one who had defeated Ronald Reeds. There's no questioning how powerful he is. But he lacks experience. Nothing good will ever come of a leader that young. That's right. He's merciless and lacks empathy. The entire Balerno martial world will be in trouble if he becomes the next leader. Emery's suggestion brought a series of comments and whispers among the crowd. As many of them who agreed to it, there were just as many who disagreed. Many of the senior members of major guilds, especially, frowned in displeasure. The martial world wasn't all about killing and fighting. There were a lot of customs and interpersonal relationships that came into play. Just because he was powerful did not mean he could lead the alliance. Instead, they needed someone adaptable who was willing to work for the benefit of the majority. From their point of view, Dustin was too young to possess such capability. Please calm down, everyone. Emery gestured with his hands for everyone to settle down. Then, he continued, this is a suggestion that I made after careful consideration. The Martial Arts Alliance is in shambles now, and we are in dire need of young blood. Only a talented person like Grandmaster Reese can turn things around and lead the Alliance to glory. I agree. Josie suddenly raised her hand. She shouted, not only is Grandmaster Reese young and talented, he's also powerful. There's no one more suited for the position than him. I'm in full support of Grandmaster Reese taking up the position of the Alliance leader. We are in full support of the notion, too. Several young martial artists stood out to express their thoughts. Young and passionate, they believed that strength was supreme. Since Dustin had defeated Ronald, he had every right to be the next leader of the Alliance. What? Are there only so few in support of the suggestion? Are the rest of you mutes? The Drunken Maniac asked. As he spoke, his gaze swept across all the leaders of the various guilds. They were all so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat. Grandmaster Reese has proven himself, and we have all witnessed his capability. He has more than what it takes to be the next leader of the Alliance. That's right. There is no other like Grandmaster Reese, and no one else even comes close to what he is capable of. I fully support him. The Alliance cannot be without a leader. All of us are in support of Grandmaster Reese becoming the next leader. Under the pressure exerted on them by the Drunken Maniac, all the leaders of the guilds saw no other way than to agree. No matter how much they disagreed deep inside, they could only comply.